The 7 deadly sins, including pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth, are well-known vices that can lead individuals to experience their own personal version of Dante's Divine Comedy, where they are guided through hell and eventually emerge by climbing out through Satan's domain. While most of us have some familiarity with the concept of the 7 deadly sins, they gained prominence when Peter Binsfeld associated each sin with a specific demon prince of hell. This approach became a common way for historians and demonologists to personify and establish taboos around these ideas. In this video, we will explore the true meaning of these sins and why they are considered so deadly. Before delving deeper, I came across an undiscovered deadly sin during my research: the curse of never knowing the wonders of beautiful magnet-mounted metal canvases called displates. Fortunately, this is not a concern because today's video is sponsored by Displate. Displates are metal posters or canvases that serve as excellent display pieces. With a vast collection of over 1.4 million artists and partnerships with renowned brands like Marvel, DC, and Star Wars, there's something for everyone's taste. Mounting these displates is incredibly easy. You simply stick a magnet to your wall, which securely holds the canvas. If you ever desire a new design, you can easily remove the displate from the magnets and attach a new one. Although the 7 deadly sins are primarily associated with Christianity, similar concepts exist in ancient Greek, Roman, and various other religious traditions worldwide. These sins are often contrasted with the 7 holy virtues, as they exemplify behaviors that we should and should not exhibit. Aristotle viewed these virtues and vices as a spectrum of behavior rather than a strict right or wrong system. Straying too far in one direction leads to vice, while maintaining a balance in the middle demonstrates positive virtues. For instance, excessive fear leads to missed opportunities and demonstrates an extreme level of cowardice. The virtue that overcomes fear and cowardice is courage. However, displaying excessive courage can lean towards recklessness, representing the opposite extreme. Rather than categorizing behaviors as inherently good or bad, it is more about finding a healthy balance, a constant effort to maintain moderation rather than adhering strictly to the ideas of sin and virtue. Now let's turn to the Christian, specifically Catholic, concept of the 7 deadly sins. These sins are defined as immoral behaviors that separate individuals from God and lead to the commission of further sins. A venial sin weakens one's relationship with God but doesn't sever the bond completely, unlike the deadly sins. It was believed that turning away from God increased the likelihood of committing mortal sins. Failure to repent for mortal sins before death would result in damnation to hell. Therefore, the 7 deadly sins serve as gateways or temptations that lead individuals towards more sinful acts. Pope Gregory I introduced these sins in the 6th century within the Catholic Church. Several hundred years earlier, the monk Evagrius had listed 8 evil thoughts, which were later translated from Greek to Latin by John Cassian. Pope Gregory streamlined the list to 7 sins in his text Moalia, and these sins were further expanded upon by Thomas Aquinas in the 13th century. The first sin, pride, often referred to as the father of all sin, represents ego and hubris, considered one of the gravest offenses in Greek and Roman mythology. Those who believed they were equal or superior to the gods were swiftly punished and made examples of. Pride, as a deadly sin, signifies a lack of humility and disregarding the welfare of others in favor of one's own desires. This selfishness leads to contempt and other sins. An illustrative example of pride is the story of Lucifer, the most beautiful of God's angels, who questioned everything he was told and believed he could rule heaven better than God himself. This led to a great war in heaven, which Lucifer ultimately lost. As a result, he was cast out and forever known as the fallen angel, representing the sin of pride. The virtue that counters pride is humility. Gluttony, another deadly sin, involves excessive indulgence to the point of waste. While commonly associated with overeating, gluttony can also refer to an overindulgent lifestyle similar to greed. Thomas Aquinas categorized gluttony into various forms, including eating expensive or exotic food, eating excessive quantities, eating food that requires elaborate preparation, eating at inappropriate times, and eating too eagerly. The virtue that opposes gluttony is temperance or moderation, which emphasizes exercising restraint and modesty. Greed, also known as avarice, centers around an uncontrollable desire for material, social, or political gain. This desire gives rise to questionable behaviors such as hoarding riches, stealing, and manipulating others to achieve status or power. Some early theologians considered the desire for money as the greatest enemy to mankind, particularly when discussing usury, the practice of making unethical loans with excessive interest rates. Greed, like pride, is considered a gateway to numerous other sins and the root of many evils. Lust, a capital sin, pertains to sexual desire and can lead to fornication, adultery, sexual assault, seduction, and even bestiality. Most religions distinguish lust from passion, with lust being seen as an immoral desire while passion is considered a natural and God-given driving force for reproduction. Lust can also manifest in other forms, such as an unbridled desire for money, power, and even food, which are minor forms of lust associated with greed and gluttony. Chastity, refraining from immoral sexual activity, serves as the virtue opposing lust. Envy is a sin closely tied to both greed and lust. It involves desiring what others have, which leads to resentment and sadness. Envy can encompass desiring someone's possessions, achievements, physical traits, personality traits, or social status. It can also manifest as a wish that someone else did not possess what they have. Envy is divided into two categories: malicious envy, which resembles jealousy and harbors negative emotions towards those perceived as better off, and benign envy, which recognizes someone's superior position without malicious intent. Malicious envy leads to hatred, isolation, and sorrow. The virtue that counters envy is kindness, involving compassion and satisfaction with one's situation. Sloth, often misunderstood as laziness, represents a spiritual laziness and a lack of care for one's responsibilities and obligations in life, both present and in the afterlife. It involves losing interest in work, hobbies, friendships, and romantic relationships, leading to sadness and depression. Sloth is the sin of omission, the failure to do what one should do. Overcoming the lack of mental and physical stimulation associated with sloth remains a challenge for many. Diligence and a persistent work ethic serve as the virtue opposing sloth. Wrath, the final deadly sin, involves the feeling of rage and anger that one struggles to control. From wrath stems hatred and vengeance, leading to feuds that can endure for long periods. Anger is not considered a sin unless directed towards an innocent person, at which point it becomes the sin of wrath. Anger is typically categorized into three subtypes: passive anger characterized by defeatism, self-blame, and apathy; aggressive anger involving bullying, hurtfulness, and vengeance; and assertive anger, which entails calling out and punishing behavior considered wrong. Patience is the virtue that counteracts wrath. In summary, the 7 deadly sins, pride, gluttony, greed, lust, envy, sloth, and wrath, are characterized by various forms of desire, excess, and disregard for others. Each sin has an opposing virtue that promotes positive qualities and behaviors. Understanding and addressing these sins can help individuals strive for moral and ethical living.